What's going on, y'all? Welcome to another episode of The Play Callers.
Murs.
I am one half of the dynamic duo, Stephen Boss, aka Trainwell Boss, and joined as always by my co-host.
The other half of that duo he's talking about, Cool McCain, aka Cool McCain.
And man, how can you have an AKA be the same name as yours, man? Come on, man.
How can you not? Who says? Where's the rule?
Well, it's the word also at the beginning of AKA. That's what it says. You can't, man.
Doesn't I can be known by the same name twice. It's my rule.
All right, cool, McCain. Cool, McCain. We got some good stuff to talk about tonight for sure. Got some NFL news. Of course, got to
Always entertaining.
celebrate my Lakers championship, and we'll talk a little bit of baseball tonight as well. So it's an exciting show, man. Let's go ahead and kick it off with the quick recap of the NBA Finals. We were getting close to wrapping that up last week, so we won't spend too much time on it. Miami came out a little extra motivated, managed to win Game Five, push it to Game Six. I think they pissed the Lakers off, and LA seemed to be a little bit upset about losing in their Mamba jerseys. They came out really focused, locked down their defense in Game Six, and closed out the series, which I think they should have did in Game Five, but they didn't come out as focused as they needed to, and Miami did. So it went six. But at the end of the day, man, nobody's gonna really remember that. All I know is number 17 is now in LA.
Well, congratulations to the Lakers. Um, LeBron along with Danny Green, two guys who now can say they won NBA championships with three different teams. So they joined a select group of players. Um, it was never a question of if LA was going to win, but when. Um, Props to Miami. Miami hung in there. They did take another game when most people like yourself thought they were going to lay down in Game Five, or that they couldn't beat them in the Mamba jersey, so they'd lose in five. There never was a realistic scenario where they were going to win three games straight over LA. So they've accomplished what they needed to. Like I said earlier in the offseason, they're ahead of schedule for their rebuild and their ascension, in my opinion. So, playing with house money. Clearly, by the time when you got to the Lakers and Miami in the finals, we pretty much knew who was going to win the series. It's just a matter of when. So, not to take anything away from the Lakers because you can only play who's in front of you, but also props to Miami for hanging in there and getting two wins. I think they were the first team in the playoffs to beat the Lakers twice. So props to Miami for
Yeah,
that.
they were, man. And it's going to be interesting when we end up later in the year talking about the NBA preview before next season starts. Miami is going to definitely be one of those teams I think is going to be around for a few years. So we'll definitely be talking a lot about Miami. And even though I'm celebrating my team winning, I definitely want to make sure I'm respectful of what Miami brought to the table because they play hard, man. They ain't go out there, they ain't lay down, they're not soft like another team that I won't mention again, but I've talked about a couple times being soft on the show. So
Well, man, some teams have it, some teams don't. It is what it is. There's no need to dwell on it. Another bit of NBA news: we have another head coach that's been hired. So speaking of
yep,
soft teams, I do believe that said team that we're referring to, the Clippers, they did hire a head coach, which essentially was
yep,
the lead assistant last year. So kind of interesting that that was the guy that they chose to hire. He does have experience. He's won a championship before, but you know, you slide from the lead assistant chair to the head coach chair.
yeah.
What are your thoughts on Ty Lue as the head coach for the
You
Clippers?
know, so my thing is, I know a lot of people are going to point out, well, Tyler Lue won a championship, and that's fine. I'm not saying that he's not going to be successful or that he is going to be successful just based on that because he did win a championship with LeBron, and the championship that they did win, everyone would pretty much agree that Golden State deserves a certain amount of credit for that championship for utterly collapsing a 3-1 lead in the NBA Finals.
Well, I
So,
wouldn't be one of
from
those everyone that you're referring to because I don't
yeah,
believe that they deserve credit for collapsing. I believe your opponent makes you collapse. And, for that particular series, They were able to do what needed to be done, come back and win a ring. So I have to give props to Ty Lue a little bit for that. Obviously, we want to attach the stigma that you only won with LeBron to coaches that only won a championship with him. I get it; it is what it is. But you have, it's a whole other conversation. But I'll simply say this: he has won a championship. Uh, you have to give him props for doing so because there's only a certain amount of coaches that have done so. If
Yeah.
you want to put a little mental asterisk beside it because of the circumstances, that's your personal opinion. Can't be wrong with your personal opinion. But simply put, he's a guy that has the pulse of the team. He was the lead assistant. He knows the players. They have a certain level of understanding with him. They have a certain level of respect, obviously, with him being the assistant. So, not the worst hire in the world for the team. It'll just depend on how they play. If he's going to be a difference between them playing the way they played this year when they got to the semifinals and being able to get over their hump next year, then he's the right hire. If he can't do any better, then he's not a better hire than Doc was. But that's something that'll have to be seen. But on paper, I think it's a good hire based on the situation and keeping some of that chemistry, with the expectation being most of those guys are going to be back clearly with that. Now, another thing we might want to talk about quickly is his on again, off again lead assistant, Mr. Chauncey Billups.
Well, real quick before we talk about Chauncey Billups, so I wanted to just kind of throw out there, it's not necessarily about my personal opinion. It's about the fact that stats are what they are, and yes, I give Tyler credit for winning the championship, but I'm just saying a lot of people are going to say, well, hey, Golden State had an epic collapse, and some people are going to give him and Cleveland more credit for that. Some people are going to probably, just put more of it on Golden State. That's going to vary by person. But I think it's fair to say, well, hey, you only won a championship with LeBron until you actually prove that you can win without LeBron. It doesn't necessarily, like I said, mean that he's not going to be a great coach there. My other concern is, and you mentioned this, he was already an assistant there. They already are familiar with him. He was already a voice in that locker room last year. So I don't know if it's going to be different when he was a head coach, but as a voice in that locker room last year, you clearly were not able to get the team motivated to be able to reach the Western Conference Finals this season. So I don't know that anything's going to change in your voice with you becoming a head coach. It seems like as an assistant, you should have still been able to help get the team over that hump, and they couldn't do that. So it will be interesting to see how it plays out. And I don't mean to take anything away from Ty Lue. I think he's a great coach. I wouldn't have been mad if we had hired him last year. But I'm just saying right now, before I get to see what the team does on the court, that's what I'm looking at.
Well, the only thing I can say to that is simply this: he's only had one head coaching job, if I'm correct, and that was with the Cavaliers. So if you've only had one opportunity, then how can you say, oh, he's only won with LeBron? He hasn't had another opportunity to win. If you haven't had another opportunity, how can that truly be an asterisk? Or are you saying, oh, he's only won with this player when that's all he's ever coached as far as being a head coach? Quickly on your thing about him being an assistant coach, you don't carry the same weight as the assistant as you do as the head coach. You all have to follow whether you agree or not with what the head coach wants to do. This is his chance to step over into that role and implement what he would have done differently um, in order for that team to win. If it would be the same, I don't think he'd have the job. Again, I don't know if it'll work or not, but we'll see. Other thing with it is the announcement did say that Chauncey Billups was going to be his lead assistant. We've since learned that Chauncey Billups is also in the running for the Pacers head coaching job. And of course, if he receives the opportunity to be a head coach, he's not going to be Lou's lead assistant. So then you have a
Right.
situation of now Lou is the head coach. What's he going to do for his lead assistant? So hopefully he has someone else in mind as his backup because I think your lead assistant is very important. But again, that is the person that has to follow your lead, whether they agree or not. Because at the end of the day,
Yeah.
the wins are your fault, the losses are your fault as the head coach. So everyone else has to follow your lead.
Yeah. I mean, like I say, man, we'll see. It's going to be interesting to see what it is. I don't necessarily feel like it's a bad hire. I'm just not sure that it's going to get them over the hump.
Well, anything less, and it's not a good hire.
So, but yeah, I mean, in terms of Billups, it's definitely interesting when you look at the fact that he's going to potentially go be a head coach somewhere. When you look at LA, two of their top assistants are, or the Lakers, that is, two of their top assistants are also interviewing for jobs. So, possibility they may lose two of their top guys, guys that hold a lot of respect in the locker room. So, could be interesting to see what the coaching situations, especially underneath the head coaches, look like next year for both LA teams.
Yeah, I mean, winning always has the side effect of normally you start losing assistants, right? In whatever sport you're in, because people want a piece of that winning mentality. So
Yeah.
that happens a lot, in all sports. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure LA was prepared for it with the expectation that it may happen. So I'm sure the Clippers were as well. Obviously they got rid of their coach, so they were bringing in someone else. I think he's doing well, or he will do well. Let me say in Philadelphia, I'll be interested to see how that roster shapes up around him. But it's just going to be one of those things where Doc's coming in there. He knows he wants to be there because clearly all of the jobs that are open, he could have had any job he wanted. I feel like I believe that if he wanted a different job from the Sixers, of the jobs that are available, of course, he could have had it with the side of, of
Oh
course,
yeah.
the Clippers would be going back there. So that's the one he picked. There's a reason. But like you said, we'll be talking about recapping the seasons down the road, so that we can kind of talk a little bit more about some changes that'll be happening in. But just interesting that there could be a change already to the expected coaching lineup for Tyloo based upon what happens with Chauncey Billups. They're kind of in a holding pattern with that. So that's kind of interesting and unique from my understanding.
Yeah, for sure. And so we'll definitely see what happens with that. Um, want to go ahead and switch gears too, unless you have something else basketball that you want to talk about, and talk about the MLB playoffs because we're getting really close to figuring out who's going to be in the World Series.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, the Braves are up 3 games to 1. They got demolished in Game 3, and then they came back and demolished the Dodgers in Game 4. So this is a team, man, that I think has the ability to be the ultimate underdog come World Series because they weren't supposed to be here. They don't have the starting caliber pitching that everybody feels like you need to have to win the World Series. Their offense hasn't been super explosive. And so going into the series against the Dodgers, I think everybody expected for every game to look like that game 3 did, where the Dodgers just exploded offensively and the Dodgers in that one game scored more points than anybody scored total against the Braves in the entire playoffs. So it was an interesting thing. I think the media all jumped on to immediately. Oh, the series is over. The Dodgers are the favorites again, and they underestimated Atlanta. And so much kudos to them for actually bouncing back and having a great Game 4. Over on the other side, we were just talking about that Golden State collapse against Cleveland. The Rays are having an epic collapse right now, up 3-0, and right now they're on the verge of tying that series up 3 apiece. Houston is leading right now 5-1 in the I think the 6th inning. So if that game continues the way it is, that series is going to be tied up at 3 apiece, and Houston very well could pull off a huge comeback from down 3-0.
Yeah, that's the thing is, if you want a good World Series, let's be real. The Rays, they're not a World Series that you're going to be like, whoever they're playing, that's not a game that you're going to be like, oh, I really want to see the series right, because you always want the team that you want to see get beat as a, as MLB fans as a whole. Obviously, Astros fans will want the Astros to win, but you always have a team that you want to see get beat, the villain, and
Yeah.
the team to overcome them. So I think Houston is the better team. I wouldn't be surprised if they were able to come back for I think like the second or third time in history and complete this um, comeback and win Game 7 as well, and put
Yeah.
themselves in a position to then go ahead to the World Series. The Braves game is going to be coming on here in a little bit, so the Braves and the Dodgers will be playing at night. Braves have a chance to wrap it up. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I just think the Braves. I read some articles at the beginning of the season. I was a little skeptical as a fan myself, but I read some articles that were saying how this shortened season is perfect for Atlanta because they have a young team. They get a chance to develop, but they don't have to go through the rigors of a full 82 game season. And if they had a roster, because it is deficient in some areas, like you said. They weren't putting up runs like they are now the entire season. They were doing it in spurts, but it's like things are coming together for them at the right time.
Yeah.
That was the first loss they've had in the playoffs. So anytime you only have one loss, it doesn't really matter how bad it is, as long as it doesn't take the momentum from you. And it
Right.
seems like in sports now, teams are just saying, "Hey, you know what? We're going to lose this game. It is what it is. It doesn't matter if it's by 5 points, 50 points, 75 points. It doesn't matter. It's just one loss, especially in a playoff series." So I think that
Right.
it didn't bother them. Props to their coaching staff and the leaders in that locker room for saying, "Hey, guys, we lost the game. So what? Doesn't matter if we lost it 1-0, 15-2, 20-1. It doesn't matter. It's one loss. Let's get back in there and let's take care of business." 10-2, they did that the next game. I think Houston, like I said, they're the better team. They are that evil villain type team for most people. So you want to see them get there so that you can see them get vanquished. No, you feeling like the Braves are underdog. And I would say against the Dodgers, they are, just because the Dodgers are the team that everybody expects to win the World Series, right? So if they go out to the
Yeah.
Braves now, you've got the underdog versus the bad guy. But even if the Dodgers somehow come back and win, which I don't think they're going to do from 3-1, you have the uncrowned champions versus the bad guy. So either way, that's a good storyline. But let's say the Rays come out and win Game 7. Who knows what the storyline becomes then? That could still be intriguing, but I think most people would like to see Houston get beat by one of the teams from the National League.
Yeah. I mean, I think people would if the Astros lose, I think people would celebrate the Astros losing.
Oh
They're
yeah,
not necessarily going to celebrate who won the series. They're just going to celebrate that the Astros lost. So if anything, I think that could actually kind of hurt because then they may not really care who wins the World Series. They'll be like, whatever. The Astros are out. I got what I wanted. And so having the Astros in the World Series is honestly what's best for MLB because people would tune in just to see if the Astros will lose.
yeah,
That's really what it comes down to.
yeah. 100% agree with that, man. 100%. That's the
And
team you
and
want
I
there.
tell you, man, MLB is probably loving the fact that the Astros are on the verge of going back from 3-0 because that means no matter how far they get down in the World Series, if they make it, that no one is going to count them out. So people are going to actually be tuned in for every game until it's over.
Yeah,
So if I'm MLB, I'm loving this right now.
yeah. I'm sure that there are some of those calls that might be 50-50. It might somehow lean toward the Astros.
Yeah,
Put it out there.
just throwing it out there. Just
The strike zone might
count
get a
count
little
it.
bit smaller for the other team, a little bit bigger for the Astros. Just saying.
Yeah, this is the way it is sometimes, man. So, any other thoughts on baseball here, man? Any you want to throw on any predictions or anything?
Well, I mean, I'm going to say Atlanta's going to go ahead and wrap it up tonight. Um, I think Houston's going to ride their momentum, win Game 7, and I think Atlanta's going to win the World Series in 6 games. And I wouldn't be
Yeah, I don't
surprised
know.
if they lose 5.
Yeah, I think Atlanta could wrap it up tonight. I'm not going to be shocked if the Dodgers pull one more win out here and then Atlanta closes it out. But I do agree that Houston's going to actually pull this comeback off. And once this gets to Game 7, uh, I just think that Tampa at that point is just gonna be like, man, we're kind of done. It's like we've already blown a 3-0 lead. It's hard to get that momentum back after you blow 3-0.
You don't lose momentum like that. You can ask every team that played Denver before the Lakers in the playoffs and several other teams, throughout history. You don't let teams get to 7 when you have them down like that. You close them out. You make things happen. When you don't,
Yep.
it normally ends up bad for you. Sometimes you're able to get lucky, but for the most part, it normally ends up bad. Sports are all momentum, and you're killing your momentum when you're doing that.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, man, before we switch topics, just want to thank everybody who's tuning in with us live, or if you're listening to us on replay. Appreciate you tuning in. Make sure you do hit the subscribe button down there on the bottom right hand corner if you are watching on YouTube. Also, let us know in the comments what are your thoughts on baseball. Do you want to see the Astros make it to the World Series and lose? If they lose in this series, do you become less interested in the World Series? So, love to hear what you guys think.
always, always.
So we gotta talk a little football, man. And I think the big story in college football right now, well, there's two big stories. One is Nick Saban, who was diagnosed with COVID, and somehow, not even like 8 weeks later, has suddenly tested negative like 3 or 4 times and might potentially be on the sideline Saturday. That seems a little suspect. Um, especially from my perspective as someone whose coach was announced to have it, and then he had to miss the Miami game, and we knew like a whole week before. So you're telling me that Saban has had it long enough that he's already, now good to go. He's already negative, but you didn't manage to infect any of your team or any of your coaches. That just seems really suspect to me. So I will be watching this story with great interest to see if something else comes out of this, and if so, what punishments might come down on that. Because Alabama is one of those teams that's kind of like the Astros, what we were just talking about. People love to see them lose. So, well,
What's
I'll get to the other big college story, but I want to hear your thoughts on this.
What's interesting to me is, like you said, you've had coaches in the past that actually had games canceled a week ahead of time because players get COVID. So for it to be a situation where, because I know you have to have, I think it's 4 tests, you have to test um, negative after
Yeah, yeah,
not showing any symptoms. So it's hard for me to believe that he's going to be able to do that by tomorrow. Um, I don't know. It's hard for me to believe that. I think the safer thing for everyone involved, honestly, don't coach this game, coach it virtually, and then try to get back for next week. I think that's fair too, based on there's been other coaches, like you said, you guys coached that tested positive and had to sit out that game. So I think the fair thing to do is not to rush him back. It is what it
yeah.
is. We knew this going into the season, but
Right,
that's kind of fishy that you can test. Does that mean you're getting tested every day? And even so, I don't think you'd be up to like 3 tests now. You have to get one and get the results back. Today. I don't know, man. I think that it sounds a little suspect. It may not be, but just because number one, it's Alabama. Everybody knows their history with questionable things happening in the SEC team. So you're going to all that. But simply, man, sit out the game for your own
right.
safety, for the safety of your team. Let's just sit out the game. If they're good as they supposed to be, they can win without you. If you want to give them access to make it fair, you could say, okay, well, because you could have possibly made it back, we'll let you be on the sideline. Have a tablet where you can, talk to people, whatever. But don't let the guy on that field. Let's not do it because his safety. He's an older gentleman, and for the safety of the team, if he still has it lingering within him, even if he doesn't have symptoms.
Yeah. So the other big story. So last week, Florida lost their first game to Texas A&M, and Texas A&M was supposed to have, I think, no more than about 30,000 people in the stands. They clearly had more than 30,000 people in the stands. And as a result, Dan Mullen, Florida's head coach, went off on this like super rant after the game because Florida said that you can have full attendance at sporting events. Good job for my home state of being stupid. And, he's like, oh, I want to pack the swamp this week. Well, they now have, as the last check I had, they had 19 confirmed cases and 10 exposures. So 29 total players and coaches being impacted by COVID. They had to shut everything down, and their game against LSU this weekend has been postponed. So, this just goes back to what we said before, man. Like, we can't do stupid stuff. Like allowing all these people in and to get that many positives in a matter of a week lets me know that you clearly are not following protocols. And then this goes back to what we were just saying about Saban. So you're telling me that many people in Florida tested positive, but A&M doesn't have any positives? I'm finding that hard to believe.
I tell you, for me, man, The biggest thing is I've been watching some college football. Half of those people not even wearing masks in the stands. They out
They
here
not.
chilling like it's a normal game, like you're not in the middle of, pandemic. So number one, my biggest issue, you have to have security or somebody going around throughout the game and ensuring that people are properly wearing their face masks, right? If you're not doing that, you're opening everyone in the stadiums up to COVID. And what's happening is they're catching it. The players are
Yep.
catching it, coaches are catching it, maintenance people are catching it, training staffs, whoever. You're getting exposed, you're going to get it. So if people don't want to do what they need to, why are they there? I don't care if you're a student, I don't care who you are. If we see you on camera, right? You've
Mm-hmm.
watched you've watched games. You see the people on camera just sitting there without their mask on, hanging down here, laughing, chilling, like it's a normal game. Put them out.
Yeah.
Put them out. If you can't follow the rules, get out. If
Yeah.
you're the coach, you can't follow the rules. Get out.
Oh,
You're
bro,
not
I've seen
here.
so many coaches,
Yeah.
so many coaches do like nose is all hanging out. They pull the mask down, talking. I'm like, come on, man.
Now, I will give them to pull the mask down just because it's hard sometimes to communicate, but it should be like a down, say what you got to say, back up, but they're over on the side, some of them with the whole mouth out, with the thing hanging down here, yelling at referees for 10 minutes. What are you
Yeah.
doing?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And like I said, it stands, the people are not following, no one's following the protocols. And then you're saying, if you're Florida coach, you're sitting up there, you have to talk about you want to stands full of people in a state that's already a problem.
Yep.
This is not wise. This is not smart. If it had went through and happened, Bill O'Brien's stupid. That's all I
Oh,
can say.
and just in case we get anybody out there watching right now, just getting upset, like, oh, just from Florida. You like first I was talking about Tampa, and now now you're ragging on Florida. I'm from Florida, so I can do that. That's all I'm gonna say on that.
All I'm gonna say is if you do stupid stuff, people are gonna talk about it. I'm not from Florida.
Well, you're a Miami fan, so
Hmm.
we'll give you like an honorary Floridian pass or something.
People gotta be smarter, man. I mean, we're not even, I'm not even gonna take the time because I'm tired of acknowledging this with the NFL, but I am gonna simply say this. There's several teams that have people that have tested or have symptoms like Odell Beckham Jr. of corona.
Yep.
If you don't do something different from what you're doing, you're going to continue to have the same results, right?
Yep.
At least at the minimum, how about we say, look, guys, you're going to need to be somewhere where you're not around people who are out and about. So if you're at home and you're going home and coming here, that's fine. If you're at home and you have family, your family's out working, your family's out traveling, stuff like that, you're going to have to find a way to isolate yourself from it.
Yeah.
Whether that's we get hotels, you can stay there. You have to stay at the facility. They probably have rooms there or they can put stuff together. You're going to have to do something if you want to finish this season. This is getting worse and more ridiculous because what's happening is you play a team, one person has corona, 10 people gets corona. Then one person on the other team gets corona. You go play two different teams. Now 4 teams have been affected.
Mm-hmm.
Those 4 teams all go play a different team. So you're going to get to the point, if you don't do something about it, where you're going to be affecting almost every team. You know
Yep.
what you're doing is not working. Reach out to Major League Baseball and say, hey guys, what did you do? Okay? Because you clearly can't handle it yourselves, or you would have by now. Reach out to Major
Yeah.
League Baseball and say, hey man, we need help. What did you guys do to get this turned around? If that doesn't work, these guys are going to have to either A, go to hotels and quarantine or do whatever needs to be done, or B, you're not going to have a season. You're not going to get paid. Because if games were forfeited, the CBA for COVID, you don't get paid. So you got to do
Yep.
something. It's too many. It's getting to the point of being ridiculous. You got to do something different, or you just don't even care anymore.
Yeah, I mean that's a valid point you bring up about MLB, and actually I forgot all about it, man, because that's how good of a job they did with getting under control. Was we went from they were literally so bad at one point that the commissioner was like, if y'all don't get this under control, we're going to just end the season. To
Yeah.
it got to the point where they were doing so well that I literally, until you just mentioned it, forgot they even had outbreaks.
Yep. You got to do something
So
different.
yeah,
They decided to do something different. Whatever it was, clearly it worked. But something has to be done, man, because it's to the point of just being ridiculous now.
and the thing is, man, I don't know if whatever MLB did, I don't know if that works for the NFL because obviously with football, it's closer contact, and people are gonna be like, well, basketball didn't have any. Yeah, but basketball was in a bubble. I don't think the
Yep.
bubble is gonna work for the NFL.
Yeah.
It's just
All right.
the season's too long. They would have to play a shortened season if they even had a hope of pulling something like that off. There's no way these
You got to
players
do
are
one
going to
though.
agree to be away from their family that long.
2 games a week.
Yeah.
Or 3 games in 2 weeks or something.
Boy, you open up a player safety can of worms there, aren't you?
Right. Hey, my team's already hurt a lot, so they're getting hurt either way,
Hey,
right?
hey, have you seen my IR list? I don't think I have. I don't think I have enough people to play 2 games a week. We had to ask for an
Well,
extra 90-man roster.
that's why you got that everybody's got that extra practice squad spots this year, man. That's have some practice squad people play. I mean, you gotta do something. Like seriously though, you have to do something. What's happening now is not going to work. Clearly it's not
Yeah,
working. It's shown it's not working. I know I just said this a few minutes ago, but you have to do something different. If you expect a different result, you gotta do something different.
bottom
Come on,
line right there,
football.
man.
Come on,
So
football.
speaking of speaking of football, man, there's a couple teams that are surprising, and there's a couple teams that are we'll just say struggling right now. Teams that need to be a little bit concerned. So I want to kind of hear like what are some of your surprises and teams that you're worried about?
So I'm gonna start with surprises. Surprise for me would be the Buffalo Bills, right? The Buffalo is a
Mm-hmm.
team that we knew had the possibility, but we didn't know what we were going to get from Josh Allen. We've got enough for them to be 4-1. They may have been exposed this past week. We'll have to see. But they're 4-1. They're leading their division as of now, primarily due to the fact that Cam Newton got COVID and had to miss a couple of games, and they just clearly don't have a backup for him. But I think that's a team that I'm really shocked at how well that they're playing. Another team that I'm shocked at how well they're playing is the Cleveland Browns, right?
Yep,
I mean, people
that's
can
one
say
of
what
mine
they
too.
want. Cleveland is 4-1. If you were to tell me before the season started Cleveland would be 4-1, I would tell you must be from the future. Because honestly, there's no way you would predict that. Even Browns fans would have predicted that. It's great though because it's another team that you don't expect to be where they're at, that are getting it done, and you need that, right? We need that in the NFL. We need teams
Yeah.
that you don't expect. I have two other ones. I don't want to take all of them, but I do have two other ones. The Las Vegas Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
What impresses me by them is, and I said this a few weeks ago, David Carr. David
Yeah.
Carr is legit. And the reason he's legit, even in losses, he's playing hard. He's not, he may not have 400 or 500 yard games, but he's making the right plays. He's getting some protection. He's using his running back, and he has a command of the offense when you watch them play. And that along with a pretty good defense for a team that lost what some consider the best defensive player in the league a couple of years ago, for them to be sitting, at 3-2, that's still really good. You know what I'm saying? And then there's
Yeah.
one other team that I have to discuss, and that's the Chicago Bears. With the level of quarterback play that you're getting, which is not trash, but it's not top 10 at all. It's not. It's mediocre. Still being able to sit there with only one loss, that's impressive. Period. That's impressive. That means you're getting things right in all the other phases to make up for that, or you're getting good plays at the right time. So, you know, that's good for me as well. So those are the teams that I'm impressed with. And, I'll let you, go ahead and talk about who you're impressed with.
Well, you said you're gonna leave me some, but you didn't leave me much. You pretty much took all the took all the good ones there. I will echo your sentiments with Cleveland. That's a team that last year I picked to win 6 games. I did think they would be better this year. I thought that they would win 8 or 9 games this year. I definitely would not have thought they were going to start the season off 4-1. The other team that's really surprising me, and not so much for their record, uh, is the Tennessee Titans. The reason why they're surprising me is because they're winning with Ryan Tannehill's arm. And that's a guy that in the offseason he signed a big contract. A lot of people criticized it. They said, oh, they should have paid Derrick Henry. Ryan Tannehill wasn't the guy. I made the argument over the summer that I thought that it was right for them to pay him because there was some games where he really showed his potential. But even I'm blown away by what he's actually been able to do for them this season. So that's my other big surprise that and you took all the other ones already, so I won't go through those again.
So Ryan Tannehill, he's played way better than I thought he was going to play. I trashed him. I straight trashed him. And he's proved that he's better than I gave him credit for. I didn't give him much credit. So, sometimes you're wrong. We'll see how he holds it the rest of the season. But as of now, that's definitely an impressive team. And then we can't not talk about we can't what Derrick Henry did to old boy. We can't not talk about that. You've seen that. If you not Google Google that, bro. You have to see what Derrick Henry did to Josh Norman.
Did you see the picture where they froze framed it and zoomed in on his eyes?
I saw that. I saw the one where anybody, if you're familiar with like fighting game Street Fighter, where they had the Hadouken, and then it looked like he getting hit by it. I even saw one where they did for those wrestling fans who might be watching the Randy Orton RKO on him, the way he was like flying backwards. It's crazy. But let's just say he sunned him. Straight sunned him. Like there's no other way to put it. He sunned him.
Yeah.
One other team we could say is surprising this year, based off the way they played last year, is the Rams. I know they were the last team sort of out last year, but the style that they're playing this year, and I know people want to say, oh, they played a couple of NFC East teams and blah, blah, blah. Listen here. Every team lines up, pays players to play, and goes out there to win. So when you go out there and you win 4 of your first 5 games, I don't care who it's against, that's impressive. Now you have another stint that's going to be a little bit more difficult coming up, but as of now, because we can only base it on what we've seen so far, that's impressive. Since I hogged the impressive ones, so you say, I'm going to allow you the opportunity, sir. Who's your disappointing teams? Or your teams?
So I will. So I'm going to start with the obvious. My own personal team, the 49ers, absolutely decimated by injuries. But on top of that, really poor communication. It seems like on our offensive line. Our offensive line is not playing well. I need to see much more out of Jimmy Garoppolo than what I saw last week. And defensively, man, we are just really hurting. I know we're supposed to get Emmanuel Mosley back this week, which will be helpful, but we're just missing so many pieces. And for a team that was just in the Super Bowl to be sitting where they are right now is definitely disappointing, even with all the injuries, especially consider some of the teams that we've played. Another team that's disappointing for me is the Atlanta Falcons. Now, I don't want to give anybody the impression that I think the Atlanta Falcons should have been 5-0 or anything like that. But they finished last year very strong. The coach was brought back on the idea that you are going to be able to continue the momentum you built at the end of last year. This is a team I expected to play a little bit better. And I thought at this point they would at least maybe have a winning record or at least around 500. And instead they're 0-5 and they just fired their coach and the GM. So just utterly disappointing in terms of that. Another team I thought would actually be a little bit better. I thought their defense would carry them is the Washington football team. I didn't expect them again to be great, but to only have one win right now it's worse than I thought they would be. I thought their defense would keep them in a lot more games and they do a little bit better. Eric says the Falcons got some things to work on. Bro, the Falcons need to just blow it up and start over. Matter of fact, if y'all are looking to trade Julio, call my Niners. We need some wide receiver help.
Um,
So I won't hog up all these men. I'm just gonna leave it there and then I'll let you run through a few.
well, Minnesota. Minnesota is very disappointing for me
Yeah,
because you have a good defense. Kirk Cousins has shown he can manage a game and have some big games. You got Adam Thielen, you brought in Justin Jefferson. Rudolph was a big part of your offense last year. Uh, Madison is a good running back. You know, Dalvin Cook, we know that he's a guy that's just, it's hard for him to make it through a season. You know, I'm not going to try to knock anyone because you're a professional athlete, which I've never been, but it's hard for him to make it through a season, but you got a decent backup. So there's no reason for you to be sitting, you know, at 1-4. You have to be
right.
better than that. And, you know, I think if you continue that route, there might be a seat getting warm there for you as well.
Yeah,
Another team, actually, there's two more teams, uh, the Houston Texans and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Uh, for different reasons, they both are in trouble and have been disappointing. Houston, we knew they would be here based off their ex coach slash GM. The moves that he made were horrible, and they have hurt the team, and they will hurt the team in the future because they don't have a first round pick. So you've hurt your team. You've hurt the team that you were part of presently and going forward. Great job, by the way, Billy O'Brien. And whoever allowed him to do it as long as he did, you should resign or be fired as well, because someone had to hire him and someone had allowed him to continue to do what he did and sign off on it. And whoever that is, you should be ashamed of yourself.
yep,
Jacksonville, Gardner Minshew has actually played decently, but they're not winning. Um, the big thing with them, depreciation. You kept losing and losing defensive great players. You can't do that and continue to win in this league because you have to be able to play some defense. Understand you didn't want to pay everybody, but you didn't pay anybody. And now you're, you know, attempting to rebuild. And you
right.
went from a team that had a possibility of doing something to what? Are you in the Trevor Lawrence lottery now? Because if you are, your problem is the Jets can't beat anybody. So until the Jets win some games, and I don't see that happening anytime soon, you don't even have a shot. So, I mean, just boneheaded decision making has hurt them both, but disappointing both of them. Didn't expect them to be in the playoffs right now, but one win, you know, just really just bottom of the barrel right now. It's disappointing. You got to be better, especially with what you had, what you allowed to leave. Let's not forget Fournette as well. What are you doing?
Yeah, right,
Are you trying to win? Are you tanking? What are you doing?
right. Yeah, I don't disagree with either one of those. So Eric says that Washington still needs an offense. Washington obviously coming to this year was a question mark at quarterback. Those have not been answered yet. Their offensive line is still not that great, which I expected them to do a little bit better this year. They had a lot of injuries last year. They got some good wide receivers there. So I didn't expect for their offense to light people up, but I kind of thought, hey, that defense should be good enough to keep them in games, and the offense should be able to score enough points to at least win a couple games. So again, not expecting them to dominate or anything, just expected a little bit more from them. And the witty flow says that Matty Ice swag is melting.
I
Matty
melted.
Ice, Matty Ice been melting for a long time, bro. And he says that Dan Quinn lost the locker room after the playoff loss to the Eagles in 2017. I'm gonna tell you that the worst thing that ever happened to Dan Quinn was when Kyle Shanahan took the 49ers head coaching job, because Dan Quinn has not been able to get anybody else offensively to be able to come in and take that team to the same level that Kyle Shanahan did. And for all of his accolades as a defensive coordinator, he has never been able to get that defense to play the way that it should have been able to.
Well, I have one thing to say about Washington. They have one wide receiver. That's McLaurin. Everybody else, they're just there.
Didn't they have somebody else that was supposed to be that was going to possibly step up this year?
Supposed to be, but they have one wide receiver, and that's Tyler McLaurin.
Yeah.
Until he gets some help,
Old Scary Terry.
he has no help.
Yeah.
And then I think, you know, the Falcons have just been downtrodden since the Super Bowl, when they lost their Super Bowl. When they let the Patriots come back, that was pretty much the end of this team in its current iteration. They tried to patch it together. They tried to push through it, but you get there, you have the win, and you give it away.
Yep.
And kudos again to the Patriots, as a same argument made earlier. You don't do it unless the other team allows you, pushes you and puts you in a position where you can choke. But you choked away that with some really bad play calling, and you haven't been able to get back there. Or let me not say play calling as well as game management was what really happened. It was poor game management, and it cost you. You get there, you see that the same guy's still the coach. There's a level of respect that's lost. So Whitty Flow, I don't disagree with you that may have been a game where they completely lost faith in him. But if they still had faith in him after that Super Bowl collapse, they're little idiots too.
Yeah. So real quick, man, before we finish out our NFL talk and try to get our picks in for the week, I did want to ask any particular games from last week that really just surprised you.
So I thought about this, and I have to tell you, there wasn't a lot that made me feel like things went different than I expected. I, you know, I picked what I picked. I really don't. I really don't have one last week that made me feel like it was really a surprise to the point of a major shock. So no, I really don't have one from last week.
So for me, there were really only two games that really kind of surprised me. One is technically from this week, which was that Tennessee Buffalo game. I mean, I just would not have saw that coming in terms of how just absolutely dominating Tennessee actually was in that game. The other one was the Niners and the Dolphins. Now I told you before last week, before we even did the show, that I had some concerns about my team. That there's a possibility I felt like we could actually lose that game. In fact, I told you that after we lost to the Eagles. But man, I didn't think we was gonna go out there and get just smashed and embarrassed like that. That was just ridiculous. So for me, that was my big surprise of the week.
So yeah, I wasn't really surprised with the 49ers Dolphins game, just because I didn't expect you to win. You lost by a little bit more than I might have expected, but I didn't expect you to win. So, a loss is a loss. My mentality on that. Um, as far as the Buffalo Tennessee game, Tennessee's a dominant defensive team. They have a man playing against teenagers at running back. Tannehill, who you actually have sang the praises to some extent, is playing decent enough for them to win. So I wasn't really surprised that they beat Buffalo. Um, they did something smart, and they didn't allow Allen to have the lanes to run because they didn't blitz a lot. They just sent the front four, and they made him have to make plays with his arm and not his legs to complement those. And perfect strategy. And lo and behold, we'll see if that's something that Buffalo can adjust to. But lo and behold, that's how you get a win. So, like I said, I looked through the games last week, man. I just didn't really see anything that made me be like, "Oh wow, that's such a big surprise." I honestly didn't. So that's why I was like, "Yeah, I really don't have anything from last week. I didn't really see anything."
Yeah.
Truthfully, that just wasn't any different than what I
Well,
expected.
Well, both of those games, man, for me, it wasn't so much about the who won or lost the game as much as it was the what the actual scores were. That's the part that was surprising to me. So Eric says that the Raiders game was not something he expected. Eric, I will say that if you had I don't know if you got a chance to watch last week, but Cool actually did pick the Raiders to win. So
So not
I did
surprised he did
not.
what I did do.
Yeah, I did not. I picked the Chiefs. I was wrong. But this guy over here, he did pick the Raiders to win.
So again,
And
not
just
gonna be
and
surprised
just
to know
like
what
you,
I picked.
it's just like you talk about Ryan Tannehill and how you been a little bit wrong about him. I have to also say I've been a little bit wrong about Derek Carr because
Yeah, we both
I've
had
been
our
dogging Derek Carr for about 3 years.
yeah, we both had our quarterbacks that we kind of, we've been a little down on it, kind of showing us that we're maybe a little incorrect on them. So it's all good. It happens, man. It
Yeah.
happens.
To Derek Carr, look to Derek Carr. I'm not gonna say I'm sorry. I'm just gonna say it's about freaking time.
Well, he did it a few years ago. He had a
Only
really
took him
good year and
three.
he just followed it up.
Yeah, only took him 3 years to have a repeat performance.
Well, I'm not going to be a Derek Carr defender. I'm just talking about the way he's playing this year. He's playing good, so I'm just going to leave that there. I'm not going to try to defend Derek Carr.
Hmm.
It's not much to defend.
So Eric does remember. Yeah, see, man, Eric's got my back, man. He says Carr's inconsistent. He's not the easiest to believe in. Eric's got my back here, man. For those of you who might be joining us on the internet and can't see or wonder why we just had a moment of silence, Cool's over here doing his golf clap.
Congratulations, guys. Congratulations.
So if you guys pop over to YouTube, watch the video from today. If you want, you can fast forward to the 51-minute mark, and you'll be able to see Cool's golf clap in real time.
Real time. Love that.
It is it is on the internet forever.
That was the whole purpose. But so go ahead and hop on these picks, man, so we can see if we can get them right this week. So
Yeah,
we got
man.
at Tennessee. Gonna go Tennessee. Houston's had their emotional win because they got rid of the crazy guy. We're gonna go Tennessee.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree.
All right. Then we got Cincinnati, Indianapolis. I don't know what's happening in Indianapolis, but it's not good. A great defense, but I don't know what they're doing offensively. But I'm still gonna pick them over the Bengals.
I can tell you what's not going on is they're not throwing the ball to T.Y. Hilton, and I'm actually gonna take this as my upset pick for the week. I'm actually gonna go Bengals. They won the last time I picked them as an upset, so let's see if they can give it to me again.
All right. Atlanta and Minnesota.
Hmm.
I'm gonna go Atlanta.
I want to go with postponed, and that's what I think is going to probably end up happening because Atlanta's having some issues right now with COVID that are possibly popping up. But if the game actually happens, I do think Atlanta, much like Houston, will get their emotional win.
Yeah, absolutely. Denver and New England. Um, Cam's back. New England's gonna be back to winning. Enough said.
Yeah, I'm going to agree on that one. Eric took Minnesota, by the way.
Of course he did. That's Eric. All right, so we got Washington and New York.
Mm.
This is as close to a 50-50 game as it can be. But I'm actually going to say after their performance last week, New York should beat the football team.
Here, Witty Flo picked Washington. Eric's picking New York. You're picking New York. I'm picking New York. Sorry, Witty Flo.
Guess who that means Willie Flo's a fan of?
Washington.
Only way you could pick Washington in a game. Only way, bro. Sorry. Washington's it's tough. It's a possibility. It's about 50-50, but I'm gonna go with New York. Baltimore, Philadelphia. I'm gonna go Philadelphia.
I picked against you guys 2 weeks in a row. Gonna make it 3. Going Baltimore.
That's my upset of the week, by the way. Um, Cleveland, Pittsburgh. Saw Pittsburgh last week. Haven't seen Cleveland yet. I'm gonna go Cleveland though. I'm gonna go Cleveland.
Cleveland is playing a lot better, but Pittsburgh is playing even better than that. I'm gonna go Pittsburgh.
Keep in mind they're not playing my secondary this week. Just saying.
So
Um,
we do have a couple of picks over in the section in the chat here too. So Witty Flow agrees with you on Cleveland. Eric has agreed with me with Baltimore and Pittsburgh.
what a shock. You Eric seem to have like a phantom connection of some sort. So
I don't know why he's
Carolina,
not an Niners fan.
Carolina and Chicago. I like Carolina right now. Chicago may be an underdog slightly just because they're not playing at home. But I think the Carolina's going to pull this game out.
I'm going to go with Chicago on this one.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Jacksonville, well, Detroit at Jacksonville. Thought about this for a while. I'm going to go Detroit. They got to be somebody.
I'm going to go with the stash.
All right. Then we got the Jets at Miami. I've deviated from the rule that I've had in place for the season twice this year. It won't be 3 times. Miami.
Is your rule whoever's playing the Jets? Because that should be your rule. I'm going Miami.
Yeah, my rule was whoever's playing the Giants, the Jets, or the Falcons. So I deviated twice, but not this one. Green Bay and Tampa Bay. Aaron Rodgers has been a little perturbed this week, a little irked by everything, which to me just means motivation for Aaron Rodgers. He's probably going to be out there playing with me and you at wide receiver. He'll still find a way to win Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Green Bay also.
Then we got the Rams and the 49ers. I'm going to say San Fran finds a way to pull this one out.
So every bit of me wants to be a homer and pick San Francisco. But my offensive line is not playing very well. My defensive line is basically non-existent right now because they're all injured. Quan Alexander is out with a high ankle sprain. And the only thing that I'm looking forward to is getting Emmanuel Mosley back. I'm unfortunately going to actually pick the Rams. Maybe look, try a little reverse psychology here.
Kansas City at Buffalo. Buffalo's a little embarrassed by what happened to them last week. Kansas City's very embarrassed. He's not going to be able to play this week because he won't be able to clear the protocols yet, but they have picked up Le'Veon Bell as well. I'm going to go Kansas City. It was Helaire, big day. Wanting to remind the team, don't take my carries and give them the bill.
So last week when you said that the Raiders would be able to beat the Chiefs, and I scoffed, I also said that I thought that Buffalo would be the team to get it done. So since I'm already going against one of my teams here, I'm just going to go ahead and stick with my pick from last week. I'm going to say Buffalo pulls the upset. I'm not sure that I believe it, but I'm going to go with it.
All right. Then we have Arizona and Dallas. Here's the quandary with this pick. Dallas has a lot of weapons. CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, Zeke, their tight end, Amari Cooper, lots of weapons. Andy Dalton's always played well when he's had weapons. But you're going against an Arizona team where Kyler Murray's looking better every week. And he's definitely made some strides from year 1 to year 2. I hate to do this with every fiber of my being. I'm going to pick the Cowboys to win.
So I also have to hate what I'm about to do as much as you do because I hate both teams. So for me, I'm looking at this. Yes, I do think Andy Dalton will actually play pretty well considering the weapons he has, but that defense couldn't stop anything. So I think that Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins are going to have an absolute field day against this Dallas defense. I'm picking Arizona.
Well, the other thing why I'm picking Dallas is run control. I do believe that they're going to run control. Think that they're going to understand that, yeah, we can't get into a shootout. We have the weapons, but I think it's going to be run control.
See, I don't think Dallas's offensive line is as good as it was before. I think Arizona can actually shut that run game down.
It's definitely not. It's not as good as it was before. Now,
yeah,
we're going to go ahead and do what we say we're going to do moving forward. Thursday, October 22nd. Eric, your Giants are going to be playing the Eagles. Needless to say, I'm going back to my rule that you play the Giants, the Jets. I pick whoever you're playing against. Eagles, route, smash down.
So 3 weeks ago, I picked the Eagles to lose. Now you won that game. Picked you to lose again. You lost that game. I pick you to lose this week. The fourth week, I'm not stupid. I'm picking the Eagles.
So we do got some comments here. From the Witty Flow, Buffalo locks it down with a defensive win. Andy Dalton chokes under, and let's see. Eric agrees with me on that Eagles pick. Okay, I can respect that. So man, I think
now Eric is that the Eric is that the Eagles against the Giants or is that the Eagles this week?
Oh, it's the Eagles against the Giants. It's the Eagles against the Giants. I'd say, man, we get into a pretty interesting point in the season. We're going to have some teams that aren't going to have players or aren't going to have games due to COVID or players due to COVID or injury. But I think it's a time where you got to grit it out. A lot of us are missing players, some more than others, but a lot of us are missing key pieces. So you have to find a way to win. You're going to have guys step up like Fulham's done for us, like Claypool did for Pittsburgh last week, and several instances of that throughout the league. Guys got to take this opportunity when it comes available, to step up and do their thing. But the NFL is getting interesting, and I really believe that there are going to be some shocking wins and upsets moving forward. Because I think we're going to be looking at things from the overall perspective, the game to game. It all depends on those matchups. So I tried to keep it in mind when I was making my picks this week. Obviously, the homer and me picked the Eagles against the Ravens, but I believe we can do it. I believe in Philadelphia. I believe.
Yeah, I wanted to be a homer and pick the 49ers this week, but I have to be realistic and I also have to start thinking about the future and what do we need to do to get our top 10 pick. So that's how I'm basing my picks going forward.
And I hear you, Eric. You're a Giants fan, but a football fan more. I can respect that. Most definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on there. It's just like I was just saying, with my team, it's like you want to pick your team, but sometimes you just got to admit when your team isn't playing well, whatever the reason for that might be, and you can't always be a homer and pick them when you know there's a realistic chance you might lose.
But if you believe in them, if you feel like you got the touch,
yeah.
Like you were Transformers from the movie back when we was kids, you still got the touch. If you got the pull like Bruce Leroy, you got to pull it out. It's time for Carson to shut some people up.
Look, The way Flo just realized that he said Jason Garrett, who is no longer with the Cowboys. I wasn't gonna say anything about it, man. I was gonna let you
I wasn't
slide
gonna
with
say
it,
that,
bro.
man. I understood
I
what
wasn't
you was.
gonna.
I got you, man. We got you. We
Yeah,
got you. We know
yeah.
you was talking about
We knew what
Mikey
we knew
Mack.
what you were saying,
Yeah, we know you was talking about Mikey Mack.
man.
Definitely.
Well, we weren't gonna put you out there like that, bro.
And Witty Flow, get at us. Got a little something we need to discuss. Get at us.
Absolutely. Well, man, that is the picks for the week. Hopefully, this week I do better than I did last week. Because last week wasn't that great for me,
Well, man, I'm
but
just at the
it
point
still
right
went
now.
better than my fantasy football week. So there's that.
My thing is right now, I'm just like I'm taking chances where I feel like I can. Hey, somebody got to win, somebody got to lose. Nobody's gonna go undefeated. The Raiders just proved that with what they did to Kansas City last week. So it's fun to watch, man. Um, we're through with basketball now. We're probably going to be at least at the World Series by next week, so
Yep.
going to have some football heavy shows. It won't be just football, but we'll be talking a lot of football. We got some other things coming down the pipe, everyone. So just stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe, the like button, set those notifications so you can remind yourself about the show. Big things popping, little things stop.
Yeah, and I will just say, man, if you guys, yeah, if you guys have anything particularly you want to hear us talk about or want to participate in on the show, just let us know. Just go ahead and shoot us a message, drop something in the comments, let us know what topics you want to hear about. Because, like Cool said, after the World Series is over, we'll talk a little bit of off-season basketball, baseball type stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
most of the focus is going to be about football because that's going to be what's happening in real time. So if you guys want to hear about other sports or other big stories that are going on, feel free to drop those and let us know, and we'll try to fit them in for you.
Don't forget Facebook group, Play Callers Sports Talk. The Play
Y'all better
Callers.
know that. I believe the description or the link for that is in the description of the video. I have to double check that, but I believe it's in there. Now we'll get it added. So.
Oh, it is there. I'm looking at it right now, sir.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it is there. All you have to do is show more at the bottom, and the link is there. Facebook.com/groups/the Play Callers.
There it is. Yay.
Join us. We're on Anchor as well. Check us out.
Well, man, with that, I want to just give a big shout out to everybody that joined us, especially those that joined us live, participated in the chat. Witty Flow, appreciate you, Eric. Appreciate you joining in. Everybody else, even if you didn't comment, if you're just tuning in, whether live or on the replay, much love. Appreciate you. And at this time, gotta remind you that even the sun goes down.
And heroes eventually die.
And horoscopes, they often lie.
But sometimes why?
Nothing is for sure.
Nothing is for certain.
But until they close the curtain,
Tim and I.
the Play Callers. Y'all better know that.
Yeah.
ATL to Charlotte, North Carolina.
And back again.
We'll holler at y'all next week, next Friday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and be here.
Tell a friend to tell a friend.